Hello, it's me, Annalisa, with my spiritual friend. I am back. I hope everybody is well. I'm just gonna adjust a couple things here, so that way it's where I want it to be. I hope everybody is well. It's Sunday, December 17th. We're almost to the end of the year, which is crazy. Say hello if you're here. I've got a couple people on the list already. I just have to get that up, and I'm going to get the hi, Lexi. I'm going to get the blah, blah, blah. Hi, Regine. What do you call it? I found, for those of you where I had, I've got Allie and Mariana. I found the video that it was in. What's crazy is, for those of you here, so I found it, or the day that it happened was July 23rd. My birthday's July 22nd. Okay, I got to figure out how to unflip this camera because I need it not mirrored. It's driving me bananas. Hi, Crystal. I'm thinking my internet's bad, and I think my daughter's give me a second. Let me tell her to get off of Roblox. And the other thing I can do is, let me just do this. Okay. Are you here? Are you here? Okay. Hopefully this will fix it. I just connected to my phone. Okie dokie. Okay, that should be the link for the payment. Hi, Dune. Perfect. So do you want to go ahead and go, Allie, since you're here? Sounds good, Dune. And then hopefully I fixed the laggy bit. Is that better? So I found the video. So it was July 23rd. And I'm just going to tell this really quick. It was July 23rd. And my birthday is July 22nd. And when I was coming down the stairs that day, my guides were like, we're going to give you a gift today. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And then after the thing, I was like, whatever gift there is. So I feel like maybe that was the little gift of like a little message about something that was going to happen. So, okay. Ali says, I feel like my relationship with people are bad. What am I doing wrong? Or am I handling things fine? It's not bad. It's not you. It's so this is not psychic, so I'll get to the psychic part in a minute, but 99% of our life is perception. 99% of life is how we perceive everything. So I've had times where also, so there's such a mix of it where I'm like, okay, I've had a lot of relationships I struggled in. And I thought sometimes, okay. Oh, okay. They're getting me to why this is for you. Sorry. I'm like, okay, why am I going here? Okay. I'm going to skip the me part and tell you about you part. Ready? You tend to accept a lot of relationships in your life because you're a people pleaser. And those relationships are with people that are not very nice. And so it's that constant like need and want for somebody's validation and acceptance and love and appreciation and like, see, you're like valuable. Um, and so you attract and then keep people that just kind of suck. Um, And the thing is like the people that are like genuinely amazing and like really have your best interest at heart and like where it's a reciprocal, good back and forth relationship, they're fewer of them. It's not as many of them, but you'll find them when you start looking for the people like look to the people that maybe you don't think of that are like checking in on you and seeing how you're doing and um that are celebrating you and supporting you and like not because they can get something from it. Okay, Dune, I'll check in just a second. So what they're telling me is the reason why it seems like they're bad relationships is not like you're doing anything wrong. It's you're naturally gravitating towards people because you're a people pleaser. So it's like the people that maybe show up even initially that are like not that great. It's like, oh, I'll show them how valuable and worthy I am. It's like you feel like you always have to prove yourself. So you're not doing anything wrong. It's just this natural need to like that comes from childhood stuff of not feeling like you were, deserving, valuable, worthy of being chosen. And so you naturally gravitate towards people that reflect that like you're not, right? You naturally gravitate because you're the people pleaser to people that like I'll just make them happy and then they'll see how valuable I am. So a part of that is like genuinely just doing the work of self-concept work, right? So like going in and looking at like when you have these relationship issues or whatever, it's like, okay, why would this trigger me? Where could that initially come from? Our dialogue that you have with yourself. And it's going to feel like or weird or uncomfortable. You're like, oh, I'm totally valuable. I'm totally worthy. But it's like you didn't get that idea of not being valuable or worthy in one day. It was an over and over and over repeated story that was told to you. What do you mean you don't know if you're approaching things right? So let me say this. If you had a good self-concept, I don't even need that's not psychic to do that. This drives me nuts when this is the way it is. Um sorry. It doesn't look the way it's supposed to and I like it like throws my brain off. Um when if you had a great self-concept, like if you were really um like sure of who you were as a person, you wouldn't worry if you were approaching people right. You just be like, whatever, whatever. Like they'll get over it, or I'm not worried about it. So then the mantras that you want to work on around relationships and friendships. So you want to work on I'm valuable, I'm worthy, I'm enough. Like people like me, I like myself, I love myself, I'm lovable, I'm likable. People enjoy being around me. And it's going to feel like, oh, that doesn't even work, but it does work. And it works because I'm telling you it works because there's tons of research on reframing your thought processes and self-concept and belief. Um, and also because it worked for me. And I'm not like, there's so many other people saying the same thing. I'm not an anomaly. The thing that we forget is that literally the like not being told you're it's not like your parents literally said you're not valuable, you're not worthy, but it's the not fully listening to you, not validating your feelings, being dismissive. Oh, get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Like not letting you be who you are and fully showing up. And constantly worrying about whether or not somebody, like, when you think you're always the problem, you're not. There's first of all, there's no way that you're always the problem. When anything is an absolute like that, always and never, it doesn't, that's not how it works. Everything's a spectrum. So could you sometimes be the problem? Sure. But for the most part, you're not. It's the fact that you have this need to, like, people please and to be wanted and to be validated and to be accepted and valued. So affirmations for yourself, affirmations around relationships. There's a lot of great people out there who have affirmations and things that are just channels. Joe Dispenza talks about it. I like his work. I like Neville Goddard. I like Florence Scovel Shinn. There's a girl here, and here's the other thing is, I listen to a lot of stuff about affirmations, about self-concept. Not because, like, I don't know the stuff, but sometimes you need to hear it in a different way. Sometimes it won't click one day and it clicks the next day. Sometimes it's just you hear it right when you need to hear it. But I go back and forth. Like, there'll be periods where I'm not listening to any of it. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then, like, I've been going back and, like, listening to stuff about manifesting and affirmations. And the thing about manifesting is if our reality is what we believe it to be, right? If I create my reality based on my own belief systems, subconscious for the most part, that can be reprogrammed. Because if it couldn't be reprogrammed, then, like, you would never be able to, like, change the style of, like, so if someone went from playing classical guitar to electric guitar, they're different instruments. If someone went, like, you normally have, like, if you start a new job, if you couldn't reprogram your morning pattern, well, then you'd never be able to make it to your new job. And think about it, you move through your day for the most part subconsciously. Is it being distant or cool, or is it just being yourself? And is that mean to be yourself? Is it mean to have boundaries and be like, I kind of just need a me time right now? Would you look at anybody else? And this is not psychic reading, but so I had this conversation with my 10-year-old and she said, I worry about people. I don't want people to think I'm mean. And I said, you have to have boundaries. And if people and boundaries make people uncomfortable, but you're entitled to them. And if people think you're mean or awful because you say no, or you have a boundary, or you're like, I just need to be quiet right now, that's their problem. That's not your problem. If someone can't look at you, and I'm very serious, if someone can't look at you and go, oh, maybe she's just, like, having a day. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Look at Allie. She's so horrible and mean. She's having a day. Well, then do you really want that person around you anyway? Like, is that somebody who has, like, no empathy or no possibility of looking at you and thinking, like, you're a whole and complete person and have shit going on, and it's not about them? If they can't wrap their head around that, is that somebody you really want in your life or really need? When I started, I always worried, like, oh, people are going to think, like, if I'm just, not. Stop worrying about what other people think. You'll be a miserable mess. You'll never make everybody happy. So the approach is not authentically being yourself, I would say. And being authentically being yourself is, like, you're probably not being cold because you're a people pleaser. Being quiet or keeping to yourself and not making sure everybody is happy and comfortable and that their nervous systems are regulated based on, like, your behavior. That's why you feel like you're being mean. It's not your job to regulate everybody else's nervous system. When you have kids, sure. But not all the grown-ups out there. Not unless you agree to that. Maybe you don't. A lot of people don't know themselves because they move through life based on this programming that they got as kids and through society. And it's like, if I look at myself, then I'm going to see what a really horrible, bad, mean person I am. And the truth is, what happens is you really go, gosh, I've been really hard on myself. I've shamed myself for a lot of stuff that is either perfectly normal, given like just because it's human nature, or given what I've been through. And you know what? That's okay that you don't know yourself. I mean, lots of people don't. I had a client, a reading with a client. This is someone that I've known for a while. She's older than I am, and she's, going through some stuff with her relationship, and will probably be ending her relationship. She's like, if I retire, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what do I do with my time? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you do with your time? Go find like, if you don't know what interests you, just go try stuff. And a lot of people move through life. That's what moving through life in a survival mode is just moving through life subconsciously, like just going through the motions and not really going, why do I do this? That's interesting. And look at it not in a shameful way, like, oh, like that's a horrible thing. It's like, oh, that's curious. Why do I do that? I wonder why that comes up and where that came from. Why do I feel like everybody else's needs or comfort is more important than my own? That's interesting. And what happens is, it doesn't mean that like you're going to feel like initially when you go through this, because I went through it, you're going to feel like I'm a really mean person for doing this, or this is really selfish of me. And then you're going to realize like I'm a better person for doing this because I have more to give authentically, and there's no resentment from it. And like for me, I can teach my kids it. And the beauty of you doing this work now means that when you get in a relationship and you meet that person, A, you're attracting a healthier relationship. B, you're going to know yourself well enough to know like, oh, it's good for me to set these boundaries. You're going to see the red flags if you need to see them. You're not going to ignore them because you're worried about, oh my God, nobody else will ever be with me. And eventually when you're a mom, or when you have, like nieces and nephews and all that stuff, you can model that behavior. Please hit the like button. I notice like I'll have like a lot of people on here, and then there'll be like 3 likes. So I know that sounds like so stupid, but my numbers are dwindling and I have to figure out how to get myself out there a little bit more. So hang in there, Allie. This is a beautiful step to take. Like the wondering and like, well, wonder why this is happening. Like that leads to solutions. It's not a state of victimhood. You're in a great place. It's like the first step to moving, like, I mean, that's where you need to be. It's really wonderful to be in a space of like knowing that this doesn't have to stay this way forever. Like to get that you're empowered and you can make the changes. And the thing is it's up to you and nobody else, and it's on your own time frame. And so it's always the perfect time. So whether you do it now or 10 years from now, or you did it 10 years earlier, it doesn't matter. It's the perfect time. And I think I needed to hear that too, because I was like, oh, I wish I would have done this work earlier. So, okay. I think I have Devery next, and then Mariana and June. And I'll check the payment list. Somewhere, Allie, I think, did you used to spell your name on here with an I? I don't know why. I just, somewhere I got in my head that it's ALI. Oh, Nicole and Regine. Sorry. You're very welcome. Okay. So Devry, are you here? If you're not here, then Mariana, whoever's on the list, there's only 5 of you. So whoever has the fastest thumbs in the West. I saw this. Oh, this might be interesting because I think last time, one of the last couple of times when we ask, and we can do the questions at the end like we've done in the past too. Somebody asked, and I think it was Deborah, about free will. And I was listening to a podcast today. It's called Clairanoyance. It's with one of my mutuals who's on TikTok. It's his podcast. I'm going to go through this really quick and then I'll get yours, Mariana. And she was talking about manifesting and like, oh, I don't like to do that because that messes with free will. And so here's my take on it because I was thinking about it a little bit. When we look at free will and we think, I can't manifest that like either a change in a person or a relationship with a person, and that's the idea that we're thinking of it in terms of, that we can't do that because that's messing with free will. But that's thinking if we only live on one singular timeline. And so then it would mess with free will. But I think the way free will works is, this sort of made me think of it. So Deborah, if you're here, this is sort of for you. I sort of look at free will as being like, I have the choice to manifest however I want. And because I believe there's a multiverse and there's infinite realities of, of me, there's infinite existences of me in every possible situation. So one where I grew up where my parents never got divorced, and like every other version of me. Same version now, one where I went back to Texas and never got married my husband, like everything, but everything in between. And so when I'm manifesting, say, if I was manifesting for a specific person, I'm not changing who they are. I'm simply moving my consciousness, my awareness to that lifeline where I'm with that person. So I'm not changing anybody's free will. Same thing if you were to manifest a job, you could say, oh, well, that's messing with somebody's free will because you're making them hire you, or you're making them decide you're the best for the job. No, that's not it. I'm manifesting to that particular timeline. So that's where your free will is which timeline do I get to move through? Anyway, wanted to share that. Okay. So if she's not here, my question is related to home purchase. Some friends of ours, Jeremy and Ellen, seem interested in buying our current home. Can you let me know if they will be our purchasers? It would make it so much easier to sell without realtors. If yes, will everything go smoothly? If not, any particular reason why they don't want to buy it? I don't know if this is my psychic side or my like natural inclination to be like, that could get messy. My senses, so I'm going to tell you, my senses with him, you're going to see a side of him that you didn't, if you went through this, that you didn't know existed. So you can make it work. I do feel like it'll change the friendship a bit. But I still feel like it's not necessarily fully without realtors, because I feel like there's got to be someone. I know you have to have attorneys, but there's someone who I feel like a mediator or somebody to go between to really kind of negotiate, because I feel like there's a side of him you're going to see that you were a little surprised about. She's not surprised about it, but I feel like you're a little taken aback because there's a kind of very cut and dry nature to him. So I'm not getting like it's for sure them. It's just sort of like, if that's the route you go, it's not going to be this, it's going to be a little more bumpy than you realize. And again, you're going to see a side of him that you hadn't expected. Okay. Because it feels like very like, And you might get some feedback that that makes you feel a little, I don't want to say embarrassed, but like where he's like, it sort of feels like, "Ugh, how could they do this? How could they do that? Why didn't they do this?" Like where you're going to get some feedback that's going to feel a little more abrasive, where you might not feel that because if you went with somebody you didn't know. I do feel like there's a lot he can actually fix. I don't know if he just really likes to be like a fixer-upper kind of guy. Like he's pretty handy. But yeah, so but I just feel like there might be some times where he says stuff and it feels a little abrasive. So it could work, but understanding that I do still feel like you're going to need somebody that kind of helps settle out I mean, obviously you have to have an attorney, but it still feels like needing somebody to settle something out. So it could work. He might, if there's a feeling he might say some stuff where you're like, oh. Give them until February to make up their mind, and we'll go with realtors. Okay. I feel like he either wants to really get a good look at the house to kind of know what he's looking at. I don't know if you need a new water heater. There's something, or maybe I don't. Do you have a boiler, like a furnace? But it's like I don't know why they would call it a boiler, but it feels like kind of older. I don't know. There's something plumbing wise, but it feels more like water heater or boiler that needs something. Those are brand new. There's there's something with one of those. I'm leaning more towards it being a boiler. Like, do you have what do they call them? The little, it's like an older home with like where they have like the heaters are like the little pipes with water running through them. Like in your imagination, it's like, oh, okay, we'll just sign the papers and here you go. Here's my house and we get to get that. And it's like, no, he's actually going to be a negotiator and like, there's this, there's that. Like, I need you to take care of X, Y, and Z. Like he's going to want the inspection and stuff. We have a furnace and a water heater. They're I know they're new, but it's like the feeling of a leak or something on one of them. Or maybe it's like the pipes leading into the water. The furnace is electric, I'm guessing, or gas. I don't know why they showed me like a boiler, like in my my apartment in college had a boiler. And we had the pipes that had water running through them. And my landlord was like, just keep bleeding the pipes, keep bleeding the air of the pipes. I'm like, I've bled it. Like the damn thing is open. It is wide open. He was a bit of an alcoholic and he'd show up like drunk and high. And I was like, so that was the apartment where I was like frozen in my room. The living room was warm, but the bedrooms were freezing. Anyway, I just see like something with that. So that might be an issue, but I feel like he's still going to want an inspection and kind of know exactly what he's looking at. So it's like, even if you don't have realtors, he's still kind of going to go through it formally. Like, yeah. It's not like I see that there's like too much to fix, but it's not going to just be like, here's the keys kind of thing. Like he's actually going to go through it the right way. There is something with the leaking pipe. Okay. So I feel like that all that is to give me another validation that what I'm saying is right? So it's not that it's not smooth, it's just not as like dreamy as you're hoping. Okay. That shadow always, I don't know. My one side of my face is a little more droopy than others. I think that's the hypermobility thing. Super duper power trooper. Okay. Um, I don't feel like they'll ask for a lower price, but there may be some concessions given that there might be just minor work and stuff. There might be some minor concessions that they ask for. So, but I don't think that's where the issue is. It just feels like it feels also like again, it like when someone goes in your home, that's like your sacred space. And so then having like your phone friends really, really see like all the ins and outs and like maybe what you didn't do or what you did do and like having that judgment. So it's like kind of like opening yourself up to a vulnerability that you wouldn't necessarily have with a stranger because it's like, who fucking cares what they think? So it just feels like that. Usually here, Crystal, I'm only on Sundays live. And I'll be on sporadically during the week this week over on TikTok. I think I'm going to try. It's just that it's a really like my husband's birthday, Christmas. I'm class mom, so that's class parties that I have to get ready for. And my daughter has a recital, not recital, I guess her performance, she plays violin at her school. So they have a performance on Monday night. So I have a lot coming in. Um, yeah, I'm going to try and be on. So I might even be on like, I just don't know. So if you, if you, subscribe to my on my website, subscribe to my email. If you subscribe to my email, I'll send out an email. I just don't know that I'm not sure exactly which date I'm going to be on here. I may even come on Christmas Eve. I just don't know if it's really feasible, like who's going to be here. But subscribe to my email. I'll try and send one out early to let everybody know, like for sure, exactly what I decide. I sort of just have to see how much I get done. Sorry. I know that's not very helpful. I have like, I'm looking at this room, like I have to put away some Christmas ornaments that I didn't hang, and I have to wrap some gifts for my husband and my mom, and I still have to get my mom something. I don't know what to get her. And we're doing a New Year's party for my first grader's classroom. And so I offered to make like a little photo booth. So I need to like cut out the little frames that they're going to put together and it's on a machine that I'm cutting on, but I still have to like do it. Okay. So, and I need to do my books for this business for the end of the year. Anyway, but I promise I'll figure it out and get back to you. Okay. All right. So that's Mariana. Let's see. Devry, Dune, Nicole, or Regine. Devry, are you here? Did you forget? Just got it a little while ago. So, what changes I see for you in 2024, Dune? I feel like with like the job stuff, I do feel like you're going to have more movement in that. Like there might be a role change in that, but I also feel like really looking for a new job. But it feels like by third quarter of next year. And it feels like kind of getting unstuck and getting out of your own way. Because as much as you're like, oh, I want this change, I want this to happen, I'm so blah, 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 it's like you're still kind of getting in your own way and not allowing for that to happen. Which, we all kind of do that a little bit. Like I say, like, oh, I really want to build this business, so I'm going to start posting on law. And then I find a million other things to like get in that way. Hi, Devry. I find a million other things that like pull my attention away instead of just going like, no, this is what I need to do and this is how I need to do it. Yeah. So I feel like the first quarter there might be a change in your role at work. That's sort of what I felt, which you said you're trying to change your task in your job first. But then I felt like maybe the third quarter or so, like towards or even the end of third into the fourth quarter of next year, it feels more like, okay, now I'm gonna um, maybe start actually looking and making a change there. I don't see a huge relationship change, but I don't see you really wanting to be like in the major. Like I just feel like very kind of insulated and keeping myself. Your goal is to move to another country. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't feel like that's changing. I hate to tell you that I don't see that changing in 2024. You have a son. I just feel like your son's coming home. So I don't know if that means he's coming to visit you soon or but it was just a feeling. Or is there consideration for him to be living with you? Do you have a son? Your son lives abroad. I would not be surprised within the next few years if he decides he wants to live with you for whatever reason. Maybe where you're living is a better opportunity for him for education or something, but I wouldn't be surprised with that. I'd say there may even be talks of that in 2024, and then but it might not actually happen until like 2026, which is it's a big thing, but it just feels like it's one of those things that sort of starts to happen. I feel like he might struggle a little bit with depression. It doesn't feel like it's gripping, right? Like he can't, but it just feels like he may have some a little bit more gloomy. It doesn't. What I'm saying is wherever you move may end up be where because he wants to be there, and like, um, so it may not be Sweden he wants to be in. It may be when you start talking about really actually moving, where he's like, maybe I'd want to live there, and then not really making it happen. But I don't know. So I can only give you what I get and how I get it, regardless. So remember, I've said like we can sit in those moments where we're like, but that doesn't make any sense. Believe me, I've given so many readings where people are like that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, can only give you what I give you. Meg, who's been on here a lot, one of the first readings I ever gave her, I was like, oh, I see you like going to New York a lot, whatever. And she's like, I've never even been there. And I was like, I don't know. I see you making lots of trips here. And within 3 months, she had a job where she was traveling back and forth between New York and her home a lot. So I can't see her next job. It just feels like it just feels like making the moves to take that next step. But they're not showing it to me. Mm-mm. All right. Devery, do you want to ask your question since you're here? Devery, you missed a part. I'm going to have to go back over it again because I think you asked a question last time. So I think it would be helpful for you. Okay, when do you see my life getting better financially, home life, career? I've been trying for, and just when I think I'm finally there, I'm back where I started and I'm frustrated. February feels important and a shift. And I also feel like astrologically, so there's been like this 15-year cycle that some of us have had. And like I don't know if the people with like cardinal signs in the major, like rising sun, moon, and maybe Venus or something like that. I don't know, but rising sun, moon for sure. Have been on this like cycle for the last 15 years because of something. I don't know. Hi, Nicole. And it feels like somehow that affects you. And so it feels like it'll start to change. Like in February, it'll start feeling like better and like kind of releasing and letting go a lot of stuff. I also feel like starting to move in a little bit more laissez-faire kind of thing. Like instead of feeling like I need to control it all, I've got to have it all figured out. Being like, whatever, everything always works in my favor. Everything's always works out best case scenario kind of thing. Like just having a little bit more laissez-faire kind of thing, or like when something doesn't go quite right, just being like, well, this is a bridge of incidents to get me to the job that I want or get me that thing. And it feels like things kind of start getting better. I do feel like, I don't know what your chart is, Devery. So this is something to like look into, but if this is what it is, that's like the Pluto Capricorn thing. For some reason, I feel like someone told me that a TikTok I was watching was like talking about how like, oh, it affects these cardinal signs. And mine, I have, my sun is Cancer, which is a cardinal sign. And then my rising sign is Aries, which is a cardinal sign. And, like somehow it affects them. And it's like, oh, I look at the last 15 years. I'm like, yes, indeed. Like that tracks. So like Pluto moves into Aquarius for a little while and then has, and I know a lot of people don't believe in this, but whatever. I'm going to say this because it's what they're showing me. Then it retrogrades a little bit towards the end of the year, and then it goes back in for good after that. So it feels like you're going to kind of start to get your breath and be able to like move a little bit easier for the majority of next year. The part that goes back is not so much like where it's like, oh, I can't handle it, it's terrible again. It just feels like where it's like, oh, I had this bump. And then you start to look at it like, oh, look at how much better I'm doing with this now. And I'm moving through this. And the idea of also like manifesting wise of being back where you started, you don't want to be back there because you're never going to be back there, right? Because you can't be back somewhere, right? You want to be better than ever kind of thing, right? You don't want to be, because then that means you never learned anything from all the energy that you moved through already. And I understand like what you're saying, where it just feels like everything is stacked against you. Been there. There's something related to your chart, and that's like it's a cycle you're moving through and it's almost over. I think that's why February matters. Yeah. Believe me, I've had a lot too. So I get it. But it feels like it's going to start getting better. And here's the thing, in February, I don't feel like you're gonna be like, oh, this is what she was talking about. I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where you look back and you're like, oh yeah, it was then. Because it's gonna be a little bit more subtle. It's not gonna be a sudden, Yes.
What is the plug-in thing to the
pottery? Can you ask Daisy to help you with it? I put it on the table for you when I picked it up last night. I put it on top of the table.
Which table?
The black table where the pottery wheel is.
I looked. No one there.
Okay. Either you have to ask Daisy or I'll help you when I get done from this, okay? I know. It's really hard to be patient when you really want to do something, isn't it? I love you, Buggy.
It's
not taking that long. I've been on here for 45 minutes. Go on. The longer you're with me, the longer it takes me. Go see if it's on the table. If not, ask Daisy to help you use her plug. Okay, sorry. They got pottery wheels. So we do Hanukkah and Christmas. And so for one of their gifts for Hanukkah, they got 2 of my daughters got pottery wheels. So I wasn't sure that my oldest one was like, oh, can I make something? So I might get her something. I don't know. Because she has so many sensory issues. I didn't know if she would like it. Oh, the thing you wanted you to know earlier. Sorry. So one of the last couple of weeks when we've been doing the questions at the end and you asked about free will. Do you remember that? So I was listening to this podcast this morning called Clairvoyance. It's Ryan is one of my mutuals on TikTok. So I was listening to it. I hadn't gotten a chance to listen to it yet. And so this woman was on there talking about manifesting, and she does like niche manifesting, right? So like, which you can manifest anything. So instead of being like all about like love or, jobs or worse, she was like, oh, I figured this out because I wanted to manifest my friend out of a ticket. And so they manifested that they would be the only ones to show up, right? So it's kind of like picking things. Anyway, so she was saying, she's like, well, I won't manifest like for bad things for people or even certain things because she's like, I don't want to mess with anybody's free will. But it made me realize, like, while I'm driving, the only way that that's possible is if you look at free will, right, of like, I don't have a choice. The only way that works is if you think that time is linear and there's only one opportunity here, like there's no, but if you're looking at our existence as in a multiverse and there's infinite possibilities and everything has already happened and time has already happened at once, and like there's infinite me's of this lifetime and every other lifetime that I've existed, right? And like every possibility has ever happened, that all I'm doing when I'm manifesting is moving my consciousness to that timeline where that experience exists. So your free will comes into play, not of I'm creating it on this one lifetime, but my free will is, I know I want to have, like, in all these lifetimes, I'm going to experience, like, if your lesson that you want to learn is like to be empowered and how to overcome something, you'll get that experience in every lifetime, but it might be slightly different. Right. Or if my thing was to learn to be, to like overcome abusive childhood, blah, 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 I'll have some form of abusive childhood in all of them, but it might not be exactly the same. But if I'm manifesting a specific person, I'm not overriding their free will because in some experience we're together. Or if I want to manifest a specific job, like you could say that, well, that's like overcoming someone's free will to hire whoever they want to. Well, no, I'm just manifesting the timeline where that exists. It wasn't me that said it's stuck in a blueprint or a timeline. So, because I think that you can have whatever you want. I do believe when you have a belief system like this isn't happening, nothing happens, and that's it, then you create that belief system and nothing happens. Like you manifest just that. So the idea of manifesting is like, start picking smaller stuff. Just pick smaller stuff. Don't try for the big stuff right now. And also work on self-concept. Because, and the idea that if I'm valuable and I'm worthy and I'm deserving of something, right? If that comes into play, then it's like, well, then you don't feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Cause like, well, like someone said to me, like, well, you asked for, this was before I really understood manifesting and stuff. And they're like, you ask for help finding parking spaces. I'm like, hell yes, I do. And they're like, well, isn't that kind of selfish? I'm like, no, it's not. Would I look at my kid and be like, you don't deserve that? There's starving children in Africa. You don't deserve to have a parking space. Like, that's insane. It's not a this or that. It's a this and that and. And then when you do manifest something, so like sometimes I'll do manifesting money stuff and it won't come directly to me. It goes to my husband where I'm like, I'll like think of a big number. I'm like, I want this. And then like it'll come in like a bonus paycheck. And I'm like, I can figure out how to work that one differently. But it's still out, our money, whatever. But like sometimes it comes to you in a little bit different way than you expect. But no, I don't. I've always said not everything is stuck in stone. What I have said is there is a point though where your energetic field is so far on that timeline that it's not going to deviate from that. But most of the stuff that we've talked to, it's not, you can't deviate from it. I get it. I get it. You're very welcome. I'm sending you a gigantic, big, energetic hug. Okay. Nicole, I just found out currently that my dad has colon cancer. I'm sorry. Can you please tell me everything you can about it? Sure. What's your dad's first name, Nicole? Pardon my yawn. It's like dark out here already. It's bananas. It's only 5 o'clock. It's pitch black. Freddie. Okay. I don't know if it's one big kind of thing, but it's like I feel like, or if it's just two kind of larger ones, and it feels like it's in the transverse colon, versus like the ascending or the descending colon. It feels like it's the transverse colon where it's at, and there's like I don't know if it's like two big pockets of like a whole bunch of polyps, or if it's like two big polyps, like there's like two big, or if it's like two that kind of are really close together. It's one. I keep seeing it like this. So like two areas. I'm also feeling like, is he having lower back pain? Because that feels like, and it's like kind of on both sides. I feel like that's connected to it. I do feel like it's metastasized, but I feel like it's in the lymph nodes. I don't know that it's gone to the lungs or anything yet. So it feels like it's still kind of localized. Is he a smoker? We haven't seen the scans yet. Okay, so I'm telling you this because then maybe you'll get some validation on it. Is he a smoker? Because I do feel like he's got like kind of shortness of breath. Does he complain of his right hip? I feel real achy in my right hip. And I think some of that's related to this, by the way. So, or does he work with something where he would have like kind of a lung thing? Does he complain of being short of breath? My concern is I feel like he's not a great patient. It's like he's kind of got not a great attitude. Okay. So maybe he's like, there might be a respiratory thing coming in, like just a virus. I don't know. I just felt a little short, but I'm not I'm going to say this. I'm not 100% that it hasn't gone to the lungs. I'm leaning towards if it has, it's very small. But if it's not that, I feel like there's a viral thing coming in. And remember, I'm not a doctor. I know you're still seeing the doctors, but my sense is like, he's not a great patient. So like, he's kind of got pardon my wording of this, piss poor attitude about like his health. So no, I don't feel like he's going to die. Like, and they're going to be like, oh my God, it's all over. It's just like, and it's going to be this tragic thing. I do feel like he's not a great patient. So it's like, there's going to be a lot of complaining. A lot of complaining. And a lot of a little bit like nudging him to take care of himself and to do what he's supposed to do. He just really doesn't take care of himself. I mean, this next 6 months is really going to test your patience with him for sure. It's not like, again, it's not like I see him like, oh my God, it's just when we see our parents, like when my mom was in the hospital point a couple of years ago and I was with her and I was like, oh, like, well, where is this? And it was not emergent. And I was like, well, the doctor writes the order. And then the nurse, when she gets a chance, she goes and she looks at the order and she verifies it and she signs it off. And then she sends it to pharmacy. And then the pharmacy has to take care of the order. And I'm like, it just takes time. Like, so you're not going to have it in a minute. And then depending on how busy they are and how many stat orders they have come in and blah, 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 blah. And my mom was like, and she was like, sort of like kind of loopy from her medication. So I'll give her that. But like, not logical, I guess. And I just feel like you're going to see a lot of that. I would not go to Panic Town if I were you. Don't visit there. It's not worth it. It's not that good of a trip anyway. I mean, I think that the biggest thing for you to know is like, I do feel like he'll be okay. I just feel like he's not a great patient. And so it's like sort of makes for a harder journey. Like, he may have to have a bag. I'm not 100% on that. Even if it's temporary, I feel like he definitely needs nursing care for that. You shouldn't have to take care of that. That's like stomas are, the skin around it can get irritated if it's not cut right and put on right. And your dad, again, is just not a great patient. Don't let it be your worst nightmare. There's so much coming out about colon cancer, and there's so much research being done just about everything. So just take it in stride. Know that you're strong and you can get through this. Know that it sucks, because who wants that to happen to their family member? And also, like, it's definitely going to be a stressor. But I think you're going to learn a lot about yourself and you're going to learn a lot about your dad. What's going to be the biggest challenge? Your dad. Like, for you, your dad. Like, seeing what a terrible patient he is. I remember my dad, when I was still talking to him, there was a point where I was visiting. I can't remember if I was in college or I think I was a nurse by that point. I can't remember. But he had like a fever and he was like, oh, like he was like he was dying. And I was like, I went downstairs, like in his room, was like, Dad, what's going on? Like, are you dying? And he's like, I'm so cold. I was like, put a fucking blanket on yourself. Like, what is wrong with you? I think I was already a nurse at that point, because I was like, I had seen enough sick people that I was like zero empathy for that. Like, I get that I feel like you are not my child. You're not my patient. I'm not getting paid for this. Take care of yourself. Like, I mean, that man has so many other problems, whatever, but like, you start to see sides where you're just like, they're very human and imperfect. And in many cases, I do feel like you'll bond a little bit with your mom over it, to be honest with you. That might ease that relationship in a way that you didn't think it would. And don't be afraid to have jokes about it. And don't be afraid to like still have fun and take care of yourself and say, I need a break from this. I'm gonna go, you know, reset and recharge a little bit. It's gonna be okay. He'll be okay. I'm not saying that he doesn't have treatment and he doesn't go through stuff. I just feel like it's gonna be okay. Did they tell you? I'm assuming he had a colonoscopy and that's how they found it. Did they tell you what they found there? Yes, he'll be okay. He'll live longer. I don't feel like, again, I said, I don't think it's going to be like this thing where it's like, oh, he's dead tomorrow. And oh my God, it was like, or this is a whole like dying process. But I don't feel like it's just encapsulated and it's a small, and like, I feel like it's a little bit more involved. But again, and he's going to have treatments and all of that stuff. But okay. Okay. All right. Regine, what's your question? It's going to be okay. You're going to make it through it. He'll make it through it. This is not like I said, there's a lot more out there for knowledge and stuff. First question, does any of my grandparents have either side have a message? Can you pick one? Because it's easier. Because like when you do any of them, it's like, okay, Nicole, I'm here. Sevilla. I was gonna say there's a grandmother, but so that I don't know if this fits her. Do you know enough about how they passed? Because I just feel this it's interesting. Do you feel a little bit like I can't fully breathe? Like I'm not oxygenating well. I'm not breathing well. And did she live like, I don't know, like Louisiana or somewhere where I'm on the coast? 'Cause I feel like there's a lot of water around me. You don't know how she passed. Do you know if she lived where there's a lot of water? Water would be Selena. Did Selena have a respiratory issue? Um, they both did in their early. Oh, okay. Um, I feel like Selena was hard of hearing. So I don't know if you know if she had a hearing it or not, but it was just like I said something and then she started yelling in my ear, like as if I wasn't hearing her. I'm like, no, I'm hearing you. um, she said she's happy, she's content. She's playing, I want to say it's Rummy, but I don't know if that's the right game. She like card games? I feel like people don't play card games anymore, except for poker. But so I was like, well, what do you want her to know? They're not chatting a lot, Regine. And it feels more like not. They're so tricky. So it feels not because they don't love you or want you around you. It's like, but you're looking for guidance from them that they're like, we can't, like, it's sort of like, we can't interfere with her. She's doing fine. We don't have any advice. We don't have, like, we can't, it's not for us to talk to her about what she's doing and how she's living her life now. So when they're around you, just know they're not judging you or they're just spending time with you. There's no like, they're just watching. There's no judgment. There's no shame. There's no like, well, she should be married or she should have this or she should do that. Or it's literally just like, just watching, just spending time. Maybe somebody can get you some validation about the card playing because it felt like I'm playing cards and dice too. Like there's some dice game that they played. Just like did a weird drink thing, got tea like on the side of my lips there. Do you want to do just 2 questions since they're kind of not really coming through that well? I mean, they are, but there's just not like there's not like a big, I'm so proud of you because you're doing X, Y, and Z because it's like you're doing fine. And so you don't need them. You see you live in another country ever? I don't know if you're going to live there, but I do feel like you're going to South America. So I see you like in Costa Rica. I don't know if maybe you're like looking at property there, but I don't know if you're going to live there. But I feel, South America, but as opposed to like Europe or whatever. Listen, sorry about my yawn. Okay, I thought somebody knocked and I was waiting. Hi, NECA. Oh, okay, I'll check. Okay. Yeah, so, but I see Costa Rica. You don't want to live there anymore in Europe? Yeah, I don't know why I get pulled like, and hang on, let me just look at my geography and make sure I'm saying this right before I. Oh, this is right. Okay, and Panama. So I don't know why, because I was like that I heard Costa Rica and then Panama. So that makes sense. I was like, I want to make sure I'm saying this right, like that it's the right area. So worth looking into. I don't know. Can I please tell my crush have a crush? What? Alon, these ones are paid readings. So they're $12 a reading, and I donate 30% to the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Though I may switch that up and donate to a local food bank, which actually purchases their food from Community Food Bank of New Jersey. We, for the Girl Scouts last week, we went to this place. It's in my town, and we bag food for them. And it's like 225 families, and they do this weekly. And they said that like this time of year, they do really, really well, but September and October is really, really slow for them. So I might do that next year where I take all the money up until September and October and donate in that time period because they're low at that time of year. And she said, when I was talking to the woman, she's like, it's really, really hard to turn families away. And so since it's my community, I sort of would like to do it that way. You're welcome, Regine. Okay, so hi, Julia. How are you still awake? It's late. I guess it's not that late there. What, you're probably like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Wait, where did you go? So NECA. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, please don't delete your comments because it actually helps me find things because I'm not great about putting notes in. Okay. So let me reread your question here, NECA. Okay. How does Jesse feel and why did he not respond? That a little nicer. So the feeling, I'm gonna be honest with the way he's feeling, but I want to qualify it with some wisdom and hope that you receive it. Okay. So it's a feeling of being like annoyed or like can't be bothered, right? That an annoyed feeling. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I hate her or it doesn't matter, or it just feels like annoyed. Why is he like that? Because he's emotionally immature. Why can't he take the time to respond to you in a nicer, kinder way? Because he doesn't have it in him. I do feel like you have issues with your own boundary issues, right? So you have a hard time setting boundaries for yourself. You have a hard time standing up for yourself. You have a hard time, like you tolerate a lot more from people than you probably should. I hate using the word should, but I don't know what else to put there. So it's sort of one of those things of like, if you have better boundaries for yourself, meaning when you set boundaries, it doesn't mean like, oh, everybody has to fall in line and do what I'm telling them to do. It means you knowing what your limit is. And if people don't do that, then like, I don't need to have them in my life and I'll still be okay. When you have healthy boundaries like that, then you also tend to be much more respectful of other people's boundaries. So if he were to have said to you like, hey, I don't think we should talk anymore, you'd be like, cool, I'm good. Like, and you would process all of those emotions that you have around that and also be like, I don't need to reach out to him anymore. But I feel like he's just very emotionally mature. Like he doesn't know how to have those conversations in a healthy way. And so rather than be respectful to you and say like, I don't think that we should continue talking, he just ignores you. So big lesson about boundaries is you're not mean for having boundaries. Everybody's entitled to have them. Your boundaries don't have to make sense to anybody else. So I use this as an example because it's an absurd example, but it's to kind of show you. I always say, like, so if I had a rule, it was my boundary that I really don't want people wearing purple shoes in my house. And somebody came over to my house and they were like, oh, well, I have these purple shoes on today. Like, come on, it's okay if I have purple shoes today. And I'd be like, no, it's like, that's my rule. And so you can either take them off and leave them outside, or, well, and then they said to me, like, oh, that's just such a stupid boundary for you to have. Like, I can't believe you would have a boundary of purple shoes. That's ridiculous. Like, everybody down the street allows you to have purple shoes. I can go to everybody's house I know allows me to have purple shoes, and you're the only one. And so it's like, well, yeah, I get it, but that's where I'm comfortable. And so if you can't respect that, that's okay. But then, like, maybe we need to meet somewhere outside of my house. And if they're like, no, I'm never doing that, then you're like, okay, well, that's your choice. I guess then we don't have a relationship or a friendship. I know I just froze her to something weird just now. So, and you're still entitled, and it doesn't matter if nobody else agrees with that boundary. It's your boundary. It's your knowing yourself of like what you can tolerate. And once you start to go, I don't have to feel bad about having boundaries. I'm not a mean person for having boundaries. It's okay for me to feel this way and to say like no, or like not like this behavior. And everybody else can be like, oh, you should just tolerate it because that's what dating's like. That's how all men are. It's like, but I'm not cool with it. That's okay. And you're entitled to that. Once you learn that, then you look at other people when they have their boundaries and you're like, yeah, it's cool. I get it. And you don't take it personally because it's not about you. People's boundaries aren't, it's like, it's not a personal thing. It's a them thing. After we broke up, he said we could be friends, but he cut off communication before it happened. First message from him because I wanted to get cats that were shared. And now I'm curious why he ignores me. Because well, the simple answer, he's an eggplant, emoji eggplant, right? But the truth is like, that is somebody who cannot deal with emotions. He can't deal with his own emotions. So he's definitely not going to be able to handle yours. So to say to you like, oh, we'll still be friends, like, it's a way of him letting you down easy, like not really addressing that. Like, I want to cut all ties. I think it's unhealthy for us to have communication. And the reason why he's ignoring you is because he also doesn't want to share the pets. But I don't know that he really loves them that much. I feel like that's more of a control thing. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he's seeing somebody else, to be very honest with you. I don't feel like he's the most honest person. I don't feel like he's the most honest person with you. Meaning, do you suspect that he was talking to somebody before you ended the relation, or before he ended the relationship? Because I sort of think he was. Like, that's my feeling. Lack of emotional availability and support was a huge reason we broke up. Yeah. So that validates what I was saying. It's like, I don't feel like he's emotionally available. So I know this is going to sound really like dismissive, and it's not meant to, but it is better to not have somebody like that. Long term, that is a terrible situation to be in with somebody who's not emotionally available. It is awful. So it's sort of like, take that as a win from the universe. Like, thanks for saving me from a horrible long-term relationship with somebody, because if they're not there, they just get worse. I do think you started talking to someone else, but I never confirmed it. Yeah, that's my sense. I can't confirm it, but it's a feeling I have. Okay. And I'm sorry, because It's really, navigating relationships is so hard. And at the same time, we learn from them, right? Like, you can choose to learn from it. You can choose to not and like keep doing the same thing over and over, or you can choose to look at this and be like, well, this is definitely like, you can look back at your relationship and see the red flags in it and see like where he first started showing you like, I'm not emotionally available. I'm not going to be here for that. Like, all I can be is this. That's all I have. And then you can learn to go, okay, well, I'll know what that red flag is again in the future. Excuse me. You're not boring. I'm just a little sleepy. Okay. So if whoever's here now, if we want to move away from doing personal questions, if you guys want to ask some general questions, we can move to that. You're welcome. I thought eventually he would respond and I'd get my cats back in time and move on. And yeah. I actually wouldn't be surprised if in like 3 months he reaches out and was like, hey, do you want the cats? Because I feel like he doesn't want the responsibility of them. But I don't think he wants much to do with you. So, and I'm not trying to be cold or mean or, like it doesn't feel like it's a ploy to like, it feels like I don't want the responsibility of this anymore. And you deserve better. Like, believe me, you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who's not emotionally available or who can't handle emotions. It just gets worse. You end up feeling like a prisoner at a point. It's not great. Okay. So if anybody wants to ask general questions about, you want to do like we've been doing for the other ones where we just kind of ask general, like pop culture, what's going on in the world, I can do those questions if you guys want. Anyone? Do I think there'll be a recession in the next 2 years? Oh, Jeffrey, where's your question? No, his name's not really Jesus. It's the Aramaic word for it. But it's not Jesus. Jesus is a very English name. Like I think the Romans gave it to him. Debbie, I don't see your question. Yeah, Allie, you can donate for another question if you want. Debbie, I don't see your question. Can anyone else see it and retype it for her? It's so when I did a meditation like a long time ago, I connected with him and I was like, how do you, he said something and I was like, it's like, that's not my name. My name is, and it sounds like Yeshua, but the way it's like the accents and stuff are on it, it's different. And so then I went and like looked up, like, how do you say Jesus in Aramaic? And that's what it was. So if you look that up, you can hear it. That's what it sounds like. But it's not Jesus. He wasn't white. He's a Palestinian man, believe it or not. Debbie, what's your question? I can't see it. Can anyone else see her question? She's usually got some good ones. How old is the earth? Oh, Lord. I don't know. Is that really a spiritual question? They just said billions of years, so I don't know. Okay, ask your question. So someone repost Devery's question because for whatever reason it's not typed. I don't see it on my end. And I don't know why. Go ahead and ask your question, Allie. And then someone else retyped. I don't see it. I get that you're pointing to it. I literally cannot see it on my end. It's not here. So for whatever reason, it's not showing up. So can someone else actually type her question? It's just not showing up. You don't see her question either. Okay. Devery, do you want to just can you email it to me? And I'll get on the email. I just can't, like, I'm not trying to be a turd. I just can't see it. Julia, I can't see that you've retyped it. So maybe there's a word in it that I've got blocked so that like other people. So can someone, Devery, will you email it to me? Someone can text it on my. Oh, Devery only asked that question because, I've been trying manifestations for a while and nothing ever happened. And then you or some other psychic said that it's set in blueprint or a timeline. Oh, okay. No, I saw that, but that's not the question she was talking about. I think she's talking about a different question. Do you see something for career? Wait, no, Chris. Wait, Devery, did you say that you're doing courses in LinkedIn? You sent it an email. Okay, let me do it that way. And so I'm not confused. Why are women still going to Gambia when they know that the men there only want them for their money? Okay. No, I got it, Naka. That's why I was like, no, I answered all of those ones. And then Allie, you want to know about is your career the LinkedIn one? I don't even know where that came from. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Did you say that you're taking courses in LinkedIn? Okay. So let me answer Allie's and then I'll answer Devery's. Hang on. Allie, I don't know where this is going. Sorry, but I'm seeing like Oceanside and I'm seeing a whole bunch of white birds, but I don't think that I want to say there's some kind of egret. Are you taking some kind of environmental courses? Oceanside, like I'm on a beach. But I see like I'm standing on a beach, but it's like there's not huge waves. It's just like, gentle. Like I'm on the sand where the water is slightly coming up from the ocean, but there's just a whole bunch of birds. So I don't know if I'm going to say this. I don't know if there's something where you'll work with something where maybe there's a name like egret or Oceanside or something within that project, or if it's a project that has to do with that, with environmental issues. Like it might be for the course, or I don't know, but that's what I'm seeing. I think you said initially, like some time ago, like that you do stuff with computers, but I actually wouldn't be surprised if somehow you get involved with environmental stuff and biology. All right. The thing with Gambia on Devery, it feels like the women that are still going over there, you're saying like, oh, the men just want it for their money. It feels like in their head, they're like, that's just propaganda. And I'm going to find the love of my life, and almost looking for a cultural connection. It's okay if you don't have a connection with it at the moment. It's just what I'm being shown. So it might be something where you take a course and you do something and then you're like, or a random job comes up or whatever. I'm not saying it's not a new job soon. It's just that's what I'm seeing. So it feels like that might be where you're led to. It feels like you're not in a place to really make a big jump just yet. So maybe March. So I don't know if that's when you finish your course. Devry, are you there for the Gambia? So it feels like the women that are still going there are going with a vision of like meeting a certain type of man, and he's going to have this cultural like upbringing and beliefs, and that he's going to be the right one there, even though it's like, and even though that the idea is out there that they only want the money, it's like that's what they're going with, the idea for that. Take your time to figure it out. There's no rush. And also don't be afraid to make a change, because like you're young. Yep, that's fine. Look at you with your list. Okay. Why are women still going to Gambia? Got that one. Is this the final chapter of Cardi B and Offset show? Seems like never ending drama and clout episodes with them. But isn't that what sells? Like, look at how many Real Housewives. I saw 6 or 7, so I don't know what season are they on right now. I didn't even know they had a show. Will Kodak Black get his life finally together from this next stint in prison? Will he pass on from not learning his previous lessons? I don't know that he's going to get himself together. I don't feel like this is his last brush with the law. What season are they on for that Cardi B and Offset show? Let me see. It's like all the headlines are drama. Wait, sorry. Oh, they've had season 7. Is it called Cardi Tries? Oh, they've had 2 seasons? Does that make sense? Is that what it is? I don't know. I saw 6 or 7, so I don't think they're done. If that's only had 2 seasons, I don't think they're done yet. I'm buffering. Oh, shoot. Okay. Hang on, let me come off. Well, shouldn't be. Oh, yeah, my bars are low. Okay, let me see if I can do